All right, so we've got Debbie Davis back with us. I am so excited. Thank you for coming back on the show.
Thanks for having me.
This is awesome. So we got to talk to you the night of the election, and that was fun. But and it looked as though they were calling you the winner, and I'm guessing that that was finalized. Yes, you've won.
Yes, I did win. So, I won the primary as the Republican candidate, but there are no other candidates in other parties. So I'll be running unopposed here in November.
That is so exciting. Okay, so once the election happens and we kind of know how the outcome's going to go, then when are you officially in the role?
Well, that depends. I can get sworn in around the time of January 1st. Judge Stutzman said that he's sworn in one of the sheriffs before at 12:01 on New Year's Eve, New Year's Day. So I said, oh, okay, maybe we'll be hanging out for New Year's Eve. But I think he had mentioned something about being able to swear in a few days early. So I'll be getting
Yeah.
that done. And then first business day, I believe, will be January 2nd. In the meantime, there is a possibility that I could get appointed as a special prosecutor for the county, but that has to come from the current elected prosecutor. So we'll see.
Yeah. All right. And that is the person that you were running against, correct?
Yeah, one of
Okay.
them. Yes.
So, yeah, that is that. All right. So what are your plans once you are okay, so why don't you share for people who don't know, what did you get elected to?
Oh, well, yes, of course. There's probably a lot of people have no idea who I am and why I'm on here, right? So I ran for the position of prosecuting attorney in St. Joseph County, Michigan, which basically the prosecuting attorney is the person that handles all of the criminal cases that come into the county. So everything from civil infractions all the way through, serious murders, that sort of thing. The elected prosecutor is the head of that office, head of law enforcement. So I work with all the law enforcement agencies and the county, and each of the municipalities, and Michigan State Police. And I will have assistant prosecutors underneath me and staff, that sort of thing, victim advocates. And working together, we'll hopefully be able to get some cases moving that have been kind of stagnant for a while because of the understaffing.
Yeah. So are you planning on fixing that understaffing issue?
Yes. So that's one of the kind of, I guess, gray areas of these elections and how the timing works because I can't negotiate salaries. I can't negotiate the budget or do things like that until I'm actually sworn in as prosecutors. So I have been working with some people that are interested in working for me and with me. And I'm hoping that the commissioners will see the value in these people that I'm bringing on. So if we can negotiate the pay with the county, I should have a full staff starting January 1,
Oh my
January 2.
goodness. That would be, and what would that do? What's happening now with there not being enough staff?
Sure. So, because there's not enough prosecutors to actually go into court and do the cases, there are cases that just aren't able to be looked at, even, let alone prosecuted. So, the goal is to have a fully functioning staff so that we can get back to doing the traffic cases all the way through the serious cases without, delaying everybody. That's kind of been the issue is you have to, like a nurse does, you triage things and take the most important that you can first, but that doesn't mean that the other cases aren't important too. A lot of the ticketed cases, that sort of thing, those generate income for the county. And I get that nobody really wants to pay their tickets, but if you do the crime, pay the fine and go on your way. But with not having enough prosecutors to physically handle those tickets, a lot of them are just being dismissed or just not written. So I think it's going to create a bit of an issue down the line for our district court judges, our district court clerks, because if there's not enough flow of cases, then it doesn't justify having the number of judges we have, the number of clerks we have. And so, it's very important to me that we get things back on track the way that they should be.
All right, and yes, because I was going to ask, what about the defendants? So it just gets dismissed then. So the
There are,
lower
yes,
level
there are things
infraction.
that get dismissed and they move on their way. It's obviously with any caseload, there are going to be cases that get dismissed. There are going to be cases that don't get authorized. But I think that that's kind of not the way it's been going because there's just not physically enough people to do the job.
Right. And I know budgets are tight with everybody and the government. What is that? Could that be an issue, or do you think that'll be okay with
I think
hiring?
it's going to be okay. The law enforcement budget overall, if we look at prosecutor's office plus the sheriff's department, the corrections, the court personnel, that sort of thing, there's some movement that can be done. It, it just historically hasn't been asked for. And I have a few ways of trying to get some income coming into the prosecutor's office as well. Forfeitures for certain repeat offense crimes for drinking and driving, that sort of thing. It's not going to be a huge amount, but it will help offset what we're trying to do.
And maybe somewhat unrelated, but I had heard something that I thought was fascinating, and I thought I'd ask you about it. So, a lot of times, apparently, and I don't have all the right words, I apologize.
That's
Um,
okay.
but people have fines and they have all these things they have to pay. And like, so, say somebody's been drunk driving, right? And then they have to have the thing that they put in their car that they blow into, or they
Mhm.
need a GPS or whatever, and they have to pay for those things. A lot of these defendants don't have money, and then that becomes an issue, apparently. Somebody was talking about somebody owing like $80,000 for a whole bunch of different things. I don't know if that's accurate or
So
is
that seems a bit extreme. The interlock system is like the breathalyzer basically that gets installed in someone's car so that they can make sure that you're not intoxicated when you start the vehicle. And then there's also some rolling tests that while you're going, you have to also blow into the machine. So those, I, it's been a minute since I've been involved in sobriety court as a defense attorney or a prosecutor. So I want to those are a couple $1,000s to get installed. That being said, if you're in the sobriety court program, they do have some grants available. So if you're doing substance abuse treatment, that sort of thing, and participating, sometimes they can get the grants to cover all or most of it.
okay, so that's good
Sure,
to
where
know.
80,000 would be for
I know that was it just
I
seemed
mean,
like that seemed like a lot, but I thought, even a few $1,000s, because a lot of people, that's a
Mhm.
lot. And I was listening to some court, it wasn't where you are, but the judge was saying, "Well, you've got all these things that you haven't been paying, and now it's gone to collections." And I thought, "Well, that would be rough, I think, so pay your fines, I guess."
Yeah, I mean, I guess I have not seen locally any of our stuff get turned over to collections, but I know there are a lot of things that just don't get collected on. The judges are not allowed to just put somebody in jail in lieu of fines and costs. So you can't jail for not having money. So they're before the judges would ever go to that, they would certainly give some show causes, that sort of thing. Give me an explanation why you're not paying. A lot of people, there's child support, there's children that they're taking care of. Bills are expensive, groceries are expensive right now. So
Right?
it's something that there's no perfect answer to it, but we all have to be responsible for what we're doing. And if you're going to speed or you disregard a stop sign or whatever it might be, there's a fine attached to it.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you for explaining that. And now back to you and what you're doing. What if in a perfect world with an unlimited budget, what would you do right off the bat to make things as good as they can be where you are?
With an unlimited budget, oh, that'd be amazing. Well, I would have 5 prosecutors plus an investigator. Each of us would have our own clerk, and then we would have like a receptionist for the people coming in that kind of manage that sort of end of things. And then we would have 2 full-time victim advocates, maybe 3 or 4, honestly. One for each court would be nice, because oftentimes there are simultaneous hearings going on. And if there's victim crimes in each of them, we really need to have somebody there to assist. So that would be the ideal way to fully staff. But unfortunately, I don't have an unlimited budget. So we'll work with what we've got and make it happen.
Very good. And you mentioned victim advocate. What do they do?
So a victim advocate is a person who keeps the victim informed of what's going on in the case. They're kind of like the liaison between the prosecutor's office and the victim, so that if there's an upcoming court hearing or something like that, they notify them, they send them paperwork about it, they send them a victim impact statement to fill out if they want to have some sort of say in the negotiations, that sort of thing. And they're with them in the courtroom, ideally, if there is a court hearing or they have to testify, something like that.
Very nice. And what about, because I know that you help people who are victims of domestic violence, and that is something that you are, what's the word? That you really care about. And that
I,
I love that. Um, what about victims who, let's say it's a domestic violence situation, and the perpetrator is saying, if you testify in court, it's going to go very poorly for you, right? Um, do a lot of people not testify because of that? Is that an issue?
Unfortunately, I believe that is an issue, and that's something that there's a reason that Michigan has certain court rules and statutes to be able to use testimony or body cam, even if the victim doesn't want to be super cooperative or cooperative at all. So, knowing how to navigate that is really important, and that's something that I took a lot of care and pride in, and also kind of meeting the person where they're at. It's not something where I want to force prosecution upon a family, but you've got to really look at all of the circumstances surrounding it. And that's why prosecutors are trusted to have that discretion to negotiate deals, to do what's best as a whole, not just best for the defendant, best for the victim, best for society, but as a whole, kind of balance everything. So I take that very, very seriously.
I love that. All right. So, and then one last question. When you take on this role, what would a typical day look like?
Like just work or family in
It just
general? Like,
work,
I don't know,
just at
like
work.
get the
Yeah,
kids to school, right? Get the,
because you've got
get
a
the kids to
lot going
school,
on at
get to
home
work.
too.
So yeah, I mean, I I take a team approach to things, and it's very much a team effort when you work with me. So ideally, everybody will have kind of their go-to of what they need to do, but some mornings we'll have team meeting. Where are we at? Who's got what going on? Sometimes there are cases that kind of overlap, and so you've got to be able to step in for somebody when you need to and cover for them. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. I plan on being in the courtroom a fair amount. Obviously, there are administrative things that need to be done, meetings that need to be attended, that sort of thing. But I do not envision myself just simply being an administrator in the office, giving people marching orders. It's going to be, we each have our talents and our strengths, and we each have our weaknesses. So the people that I have lined up, I think, are going to complement each other and myself really well. So I'm looking forward to doing that.
That is amazing. Okay. And there's a lot of people watching this who have seen you with Judge Middleton and love Judge Middleton. Will you be back in his courtroom
I would presume, yes, I will
potentially?
be in Judge Middleton's courtroom occasionally. Certainly, the preliminary exams, that sort of thing, for felony cases, and for misdemeanors too. I mean, I don't feel that I am too big to do any type of case, right? So if it needs to be me doing pre-trials because everybody else has other things going on, so be it. So yes, I will be in Judge Middleton's courtroom, and actually going to have a meeting with him and Judge Pattison soon, and kind of get some things ironed out and try to make the processes more efficient for everybody, so that things that we do in the prosecutor's office directly affect the district court and circuit court. So I'm trying to be as reasonable as possible in listening to what their issues are and see if we can come up with some sort of a solution.
I love that. Very nice. All right. Is there anything that you'd like to leave the viewers with? Any ideas or thoughts?
No, I mean, it baffles me sometimes that people are so interested in like a little tiny St. Joe County in Michigan, but it also is very heartwarming and humbling, because I feel like it brings a human touch to the judicial system and the legal system. And if it reaches one person who realizes that prosecutors have heart too, we're not just like hardcore throw everybody in jail or prison. We truly want to be, a group who can help bring solutions and not have recidivism, people doing the same thing over again or doing something worse. So hopefully that helps people.
Okay, there's one more thing then, because you just said that. I'm
Okay.
so sorry. So in comments, because I interview judges, and there's some people leave comments like, "Oh, they just wanna lock up as many people as they can." That is not accurate, is it?
Definitely
No.
not accurate. No. I mean, if a prosecutor is doing that, they are in the wrong frame of mind. They're in the wrong business. The goal is to have a happy, healthy, productive society, like in general, right? So if that means that somebody can be put back into society with a punishment that is short of jail or prison, great. The rehabilitation part of it, great. But there are times where everything has been exhausted, and whether it's a mental illness or a substance abuse issue or a combination thereof, which often is, if the person isn't willing to get the help for themselves, and we have provided that through the court system and through the programs that we have, there is no magic wand or pill that can be used to fix people. And there are times where the only thing that we can do to protect the victim and society and punish the offender is to put them into some sort of incarceration. So definitely is not the number one goal, though. The goal is justice.
There we go. That's it. Mic drop right there. We'll end. The goal is justice. That is how it should be, right?
That's
So
very
thank
true.
you, Debbie Davis, for joining me again. And if people want to find you, where can they go?
Well, I mean, Colon, Michigan, right? But you can go to www.electdeborahjdavis.com. I have updated it like a little tiny bit. Took the August date off, put the November date on, but I need to do a little better with keeping it updated. But also on YouTube, Debbie Davis said, social media, that sort of thing, Facebook and LinkedIn. I can't keep up with all of it very well, but I mean, I try to get messages back to people. On my website, there is a link that you can send me an email, and I've had some pretty funny emails from people that are, supportive and not supportive, and whatever. But it's been fun interacting with people from all across the world.
Great. All right. And I'll have all that in the description so that you can click on the link and send you a nice message. Yes. Only kind
I mean,
messages.
hopefully kind messages or questions; those are fine too. But
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming back and joining me. I
yeah,
appreciate it.
thank you so much for having me.